in the quiet farming town of Plainfield, Wisconsin. During the 1950s, life appeared peaceful and ordinary, with small houses, dirt roads, and friendly neighbors who believed nothing dangerous could ever happen in their calm community. However, hidden far away from the center of town stood a lonely farmhouse where a quiet man named Ed Gein lived alone. And although he seemed harmless to everyone around him, no one knew that this ordinary man would soon become the center of one of the most disturbing true crime stories in American history. Ed Gein was born in 1906 and grew up in a deeply troubled household where his strict and extremely religious mother, Augusta Gein, constantly told him that the world outside was full of sin and corruption, especially warning him that women were evil and immoral. And because of this harsh upbringing, Ed grew up isolated from society, rarely allowed to make friends, rarely allowed to experience normal childhood moments, and over time, his entire emotional world became completely centered around his mother, creating an unhealthy and obsessive attachment that slowly shaped the dark direction his life would eventually take. The Gein family lived on a remote farm surrounded by endless fields and silence, far away from neighbors and modern life, and young Ed spent most of his days alone doing farm chores, reading strange stories about death and violence, and avoiding other children at school who often bullied him for his odd behavior. Gradually, this isolation pushed him deeper into his own imagination, a lonely mental world where strange thoughts and dark curiosities slowly began to grow without anyone noticing. Years later, tragedy struck the family when Ed's brother, Henry, died under mysterious circumstances during a brush fire near the farm. And although the death was officially called an accident, some people in town quietly wondered whether something darker had happened that day. However, the most devastating moment of Ed's life came in 1945 when his mother, Augusta, died, leaving him completely alone in the farmhouse. And after her death, Ed sealed off many rooms of the house as if preserving them like a shrine dedicated to her memory, keeping the rooms exactly as she had left them, while the rest of the house slowly fell into decay. Losing the one person he loved most caused something inside Ed's mind to break, and not long after, he began visiting local cemeteries late at night, walking silently through rows of tombstones under the moonlight, while searching for graves of women who resembled his mother. On several nights, he began digging into freshly buried graves, pulling bodies from the ground and bringing them back to his isolated farmhouse, where his disturbing obsession with death continued to grow in ways no one in town could imagine. Inside the farmhouse, Ed began creating horrifying objects using human remains, making bowls from skulls, lampshades from skin, masks from faces, and other strange items that turned the house into something that looked less like a home and more like a twisted museum of horror. Yet despite these disturbing activities, Ed continued living quietly in Plainfield, working small jobs, helping neighbors with chores, and even babysitting children, which made the truth about his secret life even more unbelievable. For years, no one suspected anything unusual until the year 1957, when Bernice Worden, the owner of a local hardware store, suddenly disappeared from town. When police investigated the store, they discovered that the last receipt written that day had one name on it, Ed Gein, and this small clue led officers to visit the lonely farmhouse outside town. When police arrived and searched the property, they made a discovery that shocked even the most experienced investigators. Inside a shed near the house, they found the body of Bernice Worden hanging upside down. And what they discovered next inside the farmhouse became one of the most horrifying crime scenes ever recorded in American history, with furniture made from human bones, bowls made from skulls, and carefully preserved pieces of skin scattered throughout the house, creating a terrifying picture of the secret life Ed Gein had been living for years. During questioning, Ed spoke calmly about his strange activities, admitting that he had visited graveyards many times and dug up graves of women who reminded him of his mother. But what shocked investigators the most was his explanation for why he collected human body parts. Ed confessed that he had been attempting to create what he called a woman suit, a full-body covering made from human skin that he believed would allow him to transform himself into his mother, an idea that revealed just how deeply his obsession had consumed his mind. As investigators continued digging deeper into the case, they connected Ed to the disappearance of another woman named Mary Hogan, a tavern owner who had vanished several years earlier, and when questioned about her, calmly admitted that he had killed her as well, confirming that the quiet man everyone believed to be harmless had actually been responsible for multiple murders. When news of the case spread across the country, the small town of Plainfield fell into shock, with residents locking their doors earlier than usual, parents warning their children to stay close to home, and reporters arriving from across America to cover what newspapers were calling one of the most disturbing criminal discoveries in history. People everywhere struggled to understand how someone who appeared so ordinary could secretly live such a horrifying double life. When the case finally went to court, the main issue was not whether Ed Gein committed the crimes, because the evidence was overwhelming, but rather whether he was mentally sane. After months of psychological examinations, doctors declared that Ed Gein was legally insane, meaning he would not be sent to prison, but instead committed to a psychiatric institution where he would spend the rest of his life. Surprisingly, reports from the hospital described Ed as quiet, polite, and cooperative, a man who read books, helped staff with small chores, and rarely caused trouble, which only made his crimes even more confusing and disturbing to those who studied his case. However, outside the hospital walls, his story continued spreading around the world, inspiring writers and filmmakers to create terrifying fictional characters based on elements of his crimes, including characters in famous films such as Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Silence of the Lambs, proving that the chilling story of Ed Gein would continue haunting popular culture for decades. Gein remained inside the mental institution for many years until his death in 1984 at the age of 77, ending the strange and disturbing life of a man whose dark obsession shocked the world. Yet even today, psychologists and true crime experts continue studying his case in an attempt to understand how such extreme darkness could develop inside the human mind, because the story of Ed Gein reminds us of a terrifying truth that sometimes the most frightening monsters are not creatures from horror movies, but ordinary people living quiet lives in quiet towns, hiding unimaginable secrets behind normal faces.